So, Daniel Bryan, of course, we're still talking about Daniel Bryan after he lost his Universal Championship main event match against Roman Reigns this past week on Friday Night SmackDown. And as per the stipulation, because of that, Daniel Bryan has been banned from Friday Night SmackDown. Now, there's still a lot of confusion and a lot of clarification required as to what is the situation with Daniel Bryan. Is he leaving WWE? Is this part of a storyline? Is it a work? Is he going to sign a new contract? Is he going to become a part-time wrestler? There is so much discussion and quite a bit of confusion right now when it comes to Daniel Bryan, and there is some interesting information and news that's coming out about Daniel Bryan that I did want to talk about today. Now, first of all, as you can see to my on the screen to the right there, that Daniel Bryan has clarified the status of his contract, specifically when his WWE contract does indeed expire. And he has revealed that it does not expire in September, as was previously reported by various outlets. And we spoke about it here on the channel because so many outlets were saying that's when Daniel Bryan's WWE contract expired. Now, WWE superstar Daniel Bryan spoke with TV Line where they discussed his contractual status. Now, Daniel Bryan, of course, revealed that his WWE contract is set to expire later this year, and the former WWE champion revealed that it won't be expiring when everyone necessarily thinks. He said, quote, "It's funny that people gravitate towards the date September, and I think that's because that's when my last contract ended. But it doesn't end in September. I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like." Now, Daniel Bryan didn't actually go on to reveal when his contract does indeed expire with WWE, whether it's going to expire earlier or later than September of 2021. He did, however, bring up once again the struggle between finding the balance between wrestling and spending more time with his family at home. Of course, he's got 2 children. He's got his wife, Brie Bella, and he had this to say on the matter, quote, "I had a tag team match on SmackDown recently, and it was a lot of fun, but my neck was just wrecked. I'm going to be 40 in May, and my daughter likes to get on my shoulders to pick leaves from a Japanese maple in front of our house. You get to that point where it's like, how long can I do this full time and still be able to do those sort of things with my daughter? What's the right balance between the part-time and that sort of thing? It may be that it's just once every while when the urge strikes, or maybe like a schedule where it's like 8 months on, 3 months off." One of the coolest things about wrestling and just being an independent contractor in general is that you can say, well, I really only want to do this amount of work. What that amount of work is, I have no idea yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. But I also need to be respectful of the people who are relying on me to go to work. I have to give them an answer sooner rather than later. I'm trying to figure that out, trying to be the responsible as an employee of somebody who's taken care of our family very, very well. But then also trying to take the time to figure it all out. Now, as this interview carried on, Bryan was asked about whether he had consulted with any other wrestlers such as Stone Cold Steve Austin on what to do in this situation. Bryan said, quote, "Honestly, I haven't. I just talked to my friends and my family about it. We all know the risks of continuing to do this and the return on the risk. My neck injury wasn't nearly as bad as Steve Austin's, and our generation pays a lot closer attention to taking care of their bodies than the previous generation. That's the same with every sport. That's why Tom Brady is able to be the quarterback at the Super Bowl at 43. That's why LeBron James is still the best basketball player in the NBA at 37. We just have a lot more information and we're able to take care of our bodies better. When you're 20 and wrestling, you can go pedal to the metal in every single match. Now I know if my body's not feeling so great, I'm going to have to ease up a little bit. I'm a little bit more respectful of my body." So this is kind of more of what we were talking about the other day, to be honest. And when I say that, we spoke about this the other day here on the channel. We spoke about what's next for Daniel Bryan, and I spoke about this in the preview, and I spoke about this in the fallout of it as well. That for me, it's an interesting one, isn't it? An interesting one. I don't necessarily see this as Daniel Bryan retiring or any stretch of the imagination. To me, he's not giving off the vibes of, I'm done, I want to retire, I never want to wrestle again. To me, he's giving off the vibes of, look, I'm 40, and if you're familiar with Daniel Bryan's independent wrestling career, then you would know that those early matches in his career when he was on the independent scene, when he was in Ring of Honor, that physical style really caught up to him very, very quickly at a certain point in his career. And I think back to right after WrestleMania 30 when he started to have the neck troubles and he had to vacate the World Championship and he was out for nearly a year. That was all because of those matches. And it's the same with his concussion history. That was because of that really physical style that he'd worked for several years prior to getting to WWE, and initially in WWE, it caught up to him. So I know people look at him and go, well, Daniel Bryan is only 40. For a professional wrestler nowadays, that's nothing. Everyone has a bump count. Everyone has a limit on how much punishment their body can take. And Daniel Bryan's feeling it at the moment. Now, as I mentioned, I don't think this means Daniel Bryan is going to retire. I think he's been very transparent. And that's the good thing with Daniel Bryan in a lot of interviews that he does, is he is very transparent. He's very transparent in how he's feeling and his mindset and what he's hoping to do and what he's not hoping to do in the future. And I think that's the same here. The way I see it and the way that Bryan's actually touched on it there, and I said this in, I believe it was either the preview or the Fallout video I did about this, was that to me, I see Daniel Bryan, if he sticks around in WWE, I don't see him being a full-time WWE superstar anymore. I think that's over, and I think he's decided he doesn't want to do that. Unless Vince McMahon does the whole Jedi mind trick and says, you will be a full-time superstar, and Daniel Bryan just goes, I will be a full-time superstar. Unless that happens, I don't see Daniel Bryan being a full-time WWE superstar anymore. Now, before people will say, well, he's not going to be Brock Lesnar. Daniel Bryan isn't Brock Lesnar. Daniel Bryan isn't Goldberg. No, I don't think he's going to do that either. I don't think Daniel Bryan is going to be in the situation where he shows up for a WrestleMania and that's it, and then he goes away. And I don't think we're going to be in a situation where Daniel Bryan becomes the WWE champion by showing up and just beating Bobby Lashley and then doing one title defense and that's it. I don't see that being the case. What I see, if Daniel Bryan does stick around in WWE at this point, I see a similar situation to Shawn Michaels, or I see a similar situation to The Undertaker in the mid-2000s. That's what I see. I see a situation where Daniel Bryan doesn't really do live events when they come back. He might do the occasional one. He might do the European tour or an overseas tour if and when they come back. He doesn't do the Saudi shows anyway because he disagrees with them. I know he did the Greatest Royal Rumble, but he's since pulled out of them because he doesn't feel comfortable doing them, which is, to be honest, absolutely right of him to say that, and I think it's credible he made a stand when it came to that. Nevertheless, I see him in the Shawn Michaels Undertaker situation, whereby he does, as he mentioned, maybe 8 months of the year, 9 months of the year, something like that. He comes back at, say, a SummerSlam, like that, works maybe the SummerSlam event, does the fall and the winter, and goes all the way up to WrestleMania season, has his WrestleMania match. After WrestleMania, he then goes on hiatus for maybe 3 months or so. Then he comes back at SummerSlam, and he does that cycle. And it's been proven at this point that if you are feeling it on your body, if you are feeling the physical effects of the WWE travel schedule, of the in-ring demands, all that kind of stuff, it's been proven, if you're Shawn Michaels or The Undertaker, that can extend your career by like 10 years. I mean, it really can. Now, I'm not going to say Daniel Bryan's going to carry on wrestling till he's 50, but if he wanted to do that for, say, 5 or 6 more years, that's manageable. That's manageable. And you do have to realize what Daniel Bryan's come back from as well. He's come back from 2 very serious injuries. The neck injury, when he had it in 2014 after he won the World Championship at WrestleMania 30, there was a period of discussion for that period of time that he wasn't getting better. I don't know about yourself. The reports are probably still out there. But there were those reports when it came to Daniel Bryan, when it was saying that obviously he had this neck injury and his grip strength, that was the problem, his grip strength, he was like, it's just not coming back. And I don't know why it's not coming back. And it took a long, long time for that to come back, and they were worried about serious nerve damage. And there was even discussions about Daniel Bryan changing his in-ring style so that he was going to only wrestle with one arm because the grip strength was that bad. The neck injury was that severe. Now, as he's mentioned, it wasn't like the case of Stone Cold Steve Austin where he's wrestling on borrowed time, but you don't just... That stays with you. That's my point there. And it's kind of the same with Edge. Edge has come back from this miraculous injury. It's incredible. But that doesn't escape. And he still is kind of resting on borrowed time. I don't see Edge carrying on for 10 more years. I see Edge carrying on for 4 or 5 at a push. And I don't even know if Edge wants to wrestle when he's 50, considering the miles that are on his body clock. So you know what I mean? And it goes back to the concussions. The concussions as well. They do catch up with you. So it's not to say Daniel Bryan's resting on borrowed time, but I think he realizes that given everything that's happened to him during his career, I think he realizes that the thing that he just really wants the most is to end everything on his own terms. He wants to be peaceful and he wants to have contentment when it comes to his career. He wants to be happy with it. And whether that's ending it on his terms, whether that's wrestling when he wants to wrestle, or having some control over his creative or his schedule or spending time with his family, all that kind of stuff. He doesn't want it to be taken out of his hands, because that's happened to him a couple of times already in his career. And I think he realizes, you know what, I'm in a really good position right now. I'm 40 years old. Considering everything I've been through physically, I am still quite sore, but not as sore as I once was. I've got 2 young children at home that I like spending time with. I still love pro wrestling, but I'm in the position right now where I don't have to do the demands that WWE once wanted of me. I don't need to do that anymore, because if WWE says, no, look, if you stay around, you've got to be here full time and do the live events, he can go to an AEW, he can go to Ring of Honor, he can go to Impact Wrestling, he can make a trip once or twice a year and go to New Japan and scratch that wrestling itch, if you will, and he'll be fine doing it. I think he realizes that at this point. So I don't see Daniel Bryan retiring or anything like that. I don't see Daniel Bryan getting in a situation where he goes, I'm never going to wrestle again. I would be absolutely flabbergasted and stunned beyond belief if Daniel Bryan's last ever wrestling match was on a random episode of SmackDown where he lost to Roman Reigns. Don't get me wrong, because it was in the past. His last ever wrestling match before he retired previously was a tag team match where he teamed up with John Cena and went up against Cesaro and Tyson Kidd on a random episode of SmackDown, but they didn't realize what was coming when it came to the concussion situation like that. So I don't see Daniel Bryan retiring or anything like that. I just see his situation changing, and I see his lifestyle changing. I see his wrestling schedule changing, and I think that's the thing to consider here. And what does that look like? I think he's trying to figure that out. I, in my heart, feel like he will probably stay with WWE, because I think eventually they'll cave to his demands. And I say demands, he's not holding them to ransom or anything like that, but I think they'll want to keep him around. He's still, at 40 years old, is one of the best wrestlers in the world. He's proved at this point, he's just had a kick-ass match at WrestleMania and an amazing main event on SmackDown. He is very much needed in that company where they don't have a lot of top babyface stars that have the experience and can go in the ring. He's had an incredible WWE career that has just been so high up and down. He was released and then came back and won the World Championship at WrestleMania and then had to retire, all that kind of stuff. It's incredible. And I don't think WWE wants to lose that. They want to keep Daniel Bryan around because they're a better in-ring product for having him around. So I think the most logical explanation and outcome when it comes to Daniel Bryan, I think, is probably, as I said, the Shawn Michaels and the Undertaker kind of schedule, where he's not gone. He's round on television for 8-9 months of the year, but he has 3 months off every year. And I know people will complain, and I know people will say, why can't I have that? Why can't I not have that? But you get what you get, and if you don't ask, you don't get. And I think Daniel Bryan has certainly earned it. And at this point, there aren't many more people on the WWE roster that are as experienced as Daniel Bryan, so he's absolutely a valuable asset. Now, I do want to talk about this as well before we round it up, since we're talking about Daniel Bryan, because this is a bit of interesting news, because obviously, with Daniel Bryan being banned from SmackDown, Daniel Bryan's profile has actually been moved to the alumni section of WWE.com. Now, what does this mean? Not a lot. It doesn't mean a lot, because let's face it, WWE, if they hadn't have done it, people still wouldn't say, look, Daniel Bryan, he's still with the WWE. WWE.com, who knows sometimes what one hand's telling the other and all that kind of stuff. The reason I think people will look into it a bit is because sometimes being moved to the alumni section of WWE.com can be a little bit of a precursor as to what is going to happen in the future. We kind of saw the same when it came to Brock Lesnar and it came to Sting. Those names got quietly moved to the alumni section of WWE.com, and then next thing you know, they're no longer with the company. Obviously, it happened with Sting, and then he showed up on Dynamite. It's happened with other names in the past. Like I mentioned, Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar was quietly moved to the alumni section of WWE.com. Next thing you know, the reports are coming out that he hasn't re-signed a new contract, and he's currently a free agent, all that kind of stuff. So I know this is one of the things that people will look at and say, see, his contract has already expired, and he's no longer with WWE, and he's going to AEW, and he's going to show up at Blood and Guts on Wednesday, and all that kind of stuff. Who knows? And because we don't know, because we're speculating, and because we're trying to figure it out, and because we're looking at this going, I don't know what's going on, and I'm trying to figure out, is Daniel Bryan staying? Is he becoming a part-time superstar? Is he going to go to Raw? Is he going to go to NXT? Is he going to show up on a Ring of Honor show even though he's under contract to WWE? That isn't a bad thing. That really isn't a bad thing. So much nowadays in the world of pro wrestling, especially WWE, is so predictable. And having a bit of wonder and trying to figure out what's going on with one person, that's a lot of fun as a pro wrestling fan. That's engaging as a pro wrestling fan. That's what we want to see as pro wrestling fans. We want to be entertained. We want to be on the edge of our seats. And maybe sometimes it takes a real life situation like an expiring contract and will he, won't he re-sign just to really spark up something special. We saw it with CM Punk in 2011. Why were we so engaged in that? Because it was real life. We didn't know what was going on at the time. And we don't know what's going on at the time right now with Daniel Bryan. And that's not a bad thing. If WWE play their cards right and they give Daniel Bryan a good offer of a new contract that maybe is a bit more part-time, or they give him a bit more flexibility, or they play this right and they allow him to do a shot with Ring of Honor or Impact or wherever, just on an independent show, they allow him to go to Japan for a couple of months, whatever, and he's still technically under contract with WWE, and they play this out, they work social media and they work the fans, all that kind of stuff, this could be brilliant. This really could be spectacularly brilliant, and something that we talk about is, you remember when we got worked by WWE in 2021 where kayfabe is dead and WWE just brought it back for a little bit? Now, I know I'm probably talking absolute nonsense here, and in reality, it might just be nothing in the end, but we can dream, right? We can dream, and that's what this channel is about. It's about dreaming, it's about opinion, it's not about the love of pro wrestling. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Daniel Bryan revealing that his contract does not expire in September, but has not yet revealed when it does expire, and Daniel Bryan's profile being moved to the alumni section of WWE.com? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to WrestleNews 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.